Good evening, guys. Welcome to the Liverpool Disco Festival. An interview here with myself, Darryl, and Mad Mats. Mats, could you just give us a little introduction to the audience and the lovely people listening online?
Yeah, I'm Mats, and in some circles known as Mad Mats. Has nothing to do with my personality. It's an old b-boy thing that I caught up with from the early 80s when I was dancing. But among DJing, I run quite a few record labels and a publishing company, and have also run quite a few clubs and also a festival back in the day. So yeah, it's been music since day one, basically. Yeah.
Amazing. So could you tell us how you began your journey into DJing? What really gave you the passion to start DJing and go on this journey into music?
Well, it's quite simple. When I was 13, 14, I was not interested in music at all. I was basically used football and other stuff. And then the hip-hop culture arrived in Stockholm, where I'm from. And took like 2 weeks, and then I was spinning on my head, and I was looking for break beats, and like the whole culture just came really, really quickly. And it's basically within 2 weeks it changed, and it was it really, like when I don't know of any other culture that can get you that quick and had such an impact on your life. I mean, if hip hop never came, I would probably had a very, very different life. But yeah, and I would say that hip hop has been the foundation to everything I do. Even, I mean, it has so many elements within it, so it's a very nurturing thing to have in your background. I'm very grateful for hip hop.
So hip hop was big in Stockholm, I take it.
It was big everywhere, I think.
What years was this that we're talking?
I was somewhere between 83 and 84. It was, and believe it or not, my first DJ mixer was a big ass clumsy Bozak, but it was really tricky to scratch on it. So like when the Newmark mixer came, me and all my friends were like, oh, this is a lot better. So then we started playing with faders because you could scratch with them, and you can do that with a Bozak, really.
Well, we know. I know about your opinion on rotary mixers. I was just going to touch on that, actually. The resurgence of rotary mixers. How do you feel about those, and how it's become a big thing again in DJing circles?
I mean, there are both good and bad aspects about rotary mixes. The negative thing is that I truly believe that for a lot of people, not everyone, but for a lot of people, it's a trendy. It's something to give you some extra status. It's something that will boost your like something that makes you more real. But weirdly enough, every time when you speak to original old school DJs, they don't care whatever you play on. It's mainly like younger DJs that have an opinion about it. And I've always said I've never cared what kind of format you play on. If I love vinyl, the only thing I don't like is when someone gets negative about someone else just because of format. It's silly. It's what you actually do with what you got that should be important, and to me anyway.
Well, of course, when the music's coming out of the speakers, nobody really sees whether you're playing on vinyl or whether you're playing digital. They just want to dance to the music. In terms of the style of mixing, I mean, I've seen you play before many times, and you're very versatile, very eclectic. Do you think that comes from a hip-hop background that you have? Do you think that's, obviously we're at the disco festival, so we have to relate to disco. Hip-hop breaks came from disco. Do you think that versatility comes from your hip-hop background?
For sure. When you grow up in the hip-hop culture, you touch base with every elements, like disco breaks, electro music, like funk, everything that got sampled in hip hop comes from so many variation forms of African music related music. So it's like a tree that just continues to grow in every direction, and it's very, very, like I mentioned before, it's very healthy. And if I wasn't in the hip hop, I would probably be playing more limited music. So I'm very grateful for it, that I had this opportunity to be in the, I wouldn't say I was in the beginning of hip hop, but in the beginning of European hip hop scene. Yeah. So healthy.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, you run the 3 labels that you've met. That you didn't name the names of them, so you have. Yeah,
the labels that I've. Actually, my first main label was a label called Raw Fusion Records that we started.
Quite jazzy.
Sorry?
Quite jazzy.
Yeah, it was. I would call it a freestyle label. It was. We did everything from hip hop to jazz stuff to house stuff, Detroit stuff. It was very everything goes. And when this label ended, I took a break from doing labels maybe in 1 year, and then I started Local Book, which is more a house label basically.
House.
But during the same course, I had this edit label called GAM that was running simultaneously. I never really advertised it until now.
It's releasing more than ever now, it seems.
Yeah, I think that's much thanks to that vinyl is making a comeback, and on GAM we put out a lot of disco, and disco is quite big now, so it's very, very beneficial to me and for the label and for all the people that are making reworks on edits. But GAM has always been not just one style. If I like it, it can be African edits, it can be hip hop edits, it can be anything. It's just reworks of anything. And it's I was just in the car with Danny Krivitt when we came over, and he said it's cool that there are some of these labels are still around but can do a little bit of everything. And I think I don't want it to limit myself with just one style.
No, of course, and I think right now we're probably at a time where people are very, very comfortable with a lot of different styles, and it's a real melting pot at the moment for different styles of music. And obviously, GAM is very edit focused. Why do you think that people a lot of the time prefer to play the edits over the originals? I know it depends on the track, but there's a lot of also people releasing stuff where they seem to edit for the sake of editing rather than when it needs to happen.
Well, the whole thing, the edit thing can be a bit of a, sometimes I struggle with edits because it's, I depend on it for the label, sometimes I get excited about them and sometimes I don't get excited about it. Sometimes I want the edits to be more like reworks because I want them to be more works, but sometimes, for example, like Jamie 326 sent me some stuff and it was very, very basic, but it just worked. But usually I would say I prefer when someone worked a little bit more on them and actually took time. It's very easy to be comfortable with edits and just put it in some kind of sequencer program and put some boring house kick on it, and then it
kind of quantize just
but you can, and I probably put out one or two that's not been good, but I try to stay away from it. But the main thing that I probably said to most producers is be easy on the kick drum, because I hate when you hear a good song and then it's just all you hear is in the club you hear fragments of the track and then all you hear boom boom boom, and it's kind of, first of all, it takes away the actual swing of the actual song, but it also, the music is gone. It's just all you hear is a kick drum. So I always trying to find a kick drum or something to edit it and to rework it so it's more, you add something but not too much. Basically be a bit more tasteful.
Exactly, yeah. And do you think, I don't know how much you get sent to you in terms of things that people want to release on your labels, but how much percentage of stuff that you get sent do you actually consider that you may release?
0%. I have
zero.
No, all the stuff we put out is through friends, and I ask for someone. I can't remember the last time uh, actually, maybe it's Julian who's sitting here. He sent me some stuff a while back. I think.
If you introduce Julian.
Yeah, my friend Julian here, aka Young Pulse, who's one of the reworked artists, but also a very good producer on GAM and other labels as well. But I think you sent me stuff without us knowing each other, right? Yeah, he's one of the few.
So why would you not be open to accepting these?
No, it's not that I'm not open to it, but usually, first of all, it's too much, so I don't have time to listen to it, and it's more. I like working with people that I've been doing it so long, so I know so many people in the business. So it's more interesting to me to find someone that I know who can do something really good, or maybe there's people that I know that they know what I like. It's
yeah, I mean the label's got quite I would say quite a distinctive sound to it. GAM, especially in terms of the edits. How would you differentiate Basic Fingers, your other label, which is quite edit based also? Would you say?
I would say actually not that much. It's the difference there is I do it with a partner, a friend of mine who I run Local Talk with. So he's in the deciding business, but when I do GAM, it's just purely me. But I would say that Basic Finger is even more towards up-tempo disco, while as GAM can be anything.
And do you really like having that balance of obviously house music on Local Talk and the other stuff with GAM and Basic Fingers?
Yeah, but I have been struggling that I mentioned before that when I stopped doing Raw Fusion records, we went to build some kind of emblem, like really working the Local Talk theme and running it as a house label. But now I want to really, I feel that the environment, the current atmosphere in club life is much more healthier. It's opening up, it feels like there's more possibilities to go deeper again, which is very, very interesting at least to me. So I've been talking to some people about trying to put out other stuff on Local Talk, maybe not even house music, for example, we licensed a Japanese jazz band, Kyoto Jazz Sextet, and we got a Ron Trent remix. And it's like we want to do more stuff like this that is not necessarily just house, because house can get a bit formatted sometimes.
It certainly can, but why do you think there is this sort of resurgence in the real openness to new sounds and new styles, probably in the last sort of, 5 years maybe? And
well, I have a theory about this, and I've seen circles go round and round, mainly in my hometown of Sweden, but I think it's worldwide. And I remember in Sweden back in the day, there was a house label called Svek, S-V-E-K, that was really, really successful. And it was basically techno people from Sweden that got tired of techno and started making house music. And they even did some disco stuff as well on the label.
Who released on that?
Alexi Delano, The Persuader, Jesper Dahlbeck.
Bottle Up is that one?
Sorry?
Bottle Up, The Persuader.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And I remember like then people started going away from techno and more to more musical house. But then it didn't really go that much further than that. And then it went back to techno. But I remember, for example, a few years ago in Sweden, everything was referencing London, New York, club culture, like Danny Krivit, or like my generation was looking towards New York and Larry Levan, and in the UK was Giles Peterson and Norman Jay or whatever, and then it all shifted really quickly and it all went Berlin, like all very dark, non-musical, and it wasn't so much about the music anymore. It was more like
party.
It was more about which I can see the flirtation with going into dark spheres and getting lost, more about drugs. But I think music got lost on the way. But then maybe a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I started feeling that a lot of these techno DJs, in my opinion, it can't be that much fun to just playing techno year after year after year. So you got like some of these that was playing techno started playing deep house, and then after a while they put in maybe 1 or 2 vocals in the sets, and then they got started flirting with the disco. But I've noticed that this disco thing has been going for a while, which is really good for this festival, and
Of course.
but it hasn't really progressed. It's like it kind of stops with disco. They don't go to the jazz. They don't go to hip hop. You know, like it's like it stays on the 4/4. It's always like a 124 BPM, and I think that's because they don't come from hip hop.
Well, yeah, that's why I asked
like,
you about the hip hop.
I think a lot of these techno DJs that stop playing like disco and house, you know, like they come from either pop music or just from electronic music. So they're slightly limited. And there are exceptions, of course, but all the DJs that I really rate, you know, like
who?
Well, I think Lefto is one of my favorite DJs, who's a very versatile DJ. Rich Medina is another one. It's like all these DJs are, they come from hip hop, but they're very open to any kind of music, and they can play. DJ Spinner is another one. They can play anything, you know, and there's not that many of them, but I wish and hope that there are more of these guys coming around, and that people would stop and not just stop and continue and digging and going that tree and find some Latin music or like, and actually they're playing it. There's a lot of people who like it but never play it.
That's very true. But the guys that you mentioned, like Spinner and Medina, all these guys who are very, Mr. Scruff, obviously, from the UK as well.
Oh, Mr. Scruff is lovely.
Yeah, he's great. He's a very, very great guy. But you said there about disco and people being stuck in that, like 1, 2, 4, things like that. Obviously, with the resurgence of disco coming through now, as it has been for the last few years, what do you think about the longevity of this sort of resurgence? I know things go in cycles, but right now there's probably not a lot of people making live disco as much as there was in the 70s and 80s. So do you think it's got that sustainability?
Well, I actually had a discussion with my friend Julian here about this topic, that I think producers, they need to, even though I run an edit label, I think it's important that we should not be too comfortable with staying, because it can be too easy of just making an edit or making a house track with a disco filter loop. I mean, that said, it can be, sometimes you get something very simple and it just works, but we need to enhance musical productions, songwriting, chorus, verse, and because it's if it continues to be too simple, it's gonna die, because people are gonna get tired. Just the same thing. I think people are maybe getting a little bit tired of techno. It's like it's too simple, basically. I think people need variations in life. You know, if it's the same for too long, it gets a bit boring. I mean, I may be extreme, but I think for a vast majority of people, I think people want music in the long run. So we need producers that can actually write, produce, and not just edit.
Yeah, exactly, because at the end of the day, in, say, 50 years from now, if there's not that raw material that people can draw on to make edits, someone, you know, the live musicianship, which seems to me, be a bit lost at the moment.
I mean, I probably put out some really good edits, but compare it to a really well-produced Kevin Everett song, it's...
Yeah, exactly. It's different. But, you know, do you think that's technology has brought that on, that people are being a bit lazy with their production?
Yeah, I mean, it's all what you do with it. Like, you can have machines, but if you work them the right way, it's good. But you just need people that stretch their mind a little bit and not being comfortable. And you can be very comfortable with electronicity, but you don't have to be. It's the same with different DJ platforms. You can be very limited if you're playing on a controller, but you don't have to be. I've seen DJs that play on controllers that play some. I was in Brazil once and saw some guy playing some. I never heard anything like it. He used that shit to the max. But I've also seen vinyl DJs who just play very linear, boring deep house sets, and yeah, but I'm on vinyl and I don't care.
Similar to the rotary mixer thing that you said.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not making it exciting, you're not making it exciting. How do you find the time, Mats, really to run these 3 labels, DJ globally, and be a successful football manager as well?
Successful, I'm not sure about successful. I'm coaching 16-year-olds. You have to ask them if I'm successful or not. No, I mean, I have time. I have quite a lot of running the label is just, I mean, when you've done it for so long, it's kind of runs on routine. I know how much time I can put on, so I live a fairly balanced life. I don't feel stressed at all about it. It's yes, football is taking more time than it did before, but I travel less by choice. Yeah. I try to pick and choose gigs. I don't want to play gigs that I know. I don't do gigs for money anymore. No.
Yeah, you seem like one of those DJs who you do it for the real reasons that you.
Well,
you genuinely can tell a genuine love for the music.
Yeah, I'm like an old girlfriend told me, like I know more what I don't like than what I like, which kind of.
She said what? Sorry.
She told me that I look like someone who knows more what I don't like than what I actually like, which means that I can erase stuff and I know, okay, this is probably going to be good because I know the other one's going to be shit.
Well, that's important though, because you're not wasting your time then. Your time is precious, and that's why you can run the labels. Yeah,
but that's also like, I think it maybe comes from running labels, because it's deselect so much. And it's just, with this amount of music, there's a mountain of music. It's more important what you actually take away, and that's so you get clarity and say, oh, that's the one.
And how do you actually dig for your music now? What's your main methods? Do you go to the record shop? Do you go on the digital sites, or do you rely on people sending you things?
I still buy vinyl, but I don't collect vinyl like I did before. Like for 25 years, I was traveling around the world buying records, selling, and was really nerdy, and then it really quickly went on to the other way. But now the last couple of years, I've sort of discovered that there's so many ways you can dig through music if you really dig. Like you can do it online, you can do exchanges with people, but yes, the main important thing is the filter. You have to, because there's so much coming your way.
So knowing what you don't like.
Yeah, you have to know what you don't like, and you have to know that this is actually not that good. It's like, and you have to be very careful, because I think, like a good example is all this African disco music that is coming. It's a fucking nightmare. It's like shitloads of Africa, and it looks good. The cover looks amazing, but it's like when you listen to this shit.
And like the rotary mixer thing, going back to that again, people saying, "Oh, I play on the rotary."
I mean, tell me one of these, like with a few exceptions, like all these African disco records, like especially the '80s ones, and you put on one half decent fella record and it would kill it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's where you can make your good edits then out of these records. Where
maybe you can edit them and make them sound better than they actually are, but then you have a really good edit guy.
That's why you have the label, man.
True that.
How is the scene in Stockholm right now? Then is it healthy?
It's getting better actually. We have there are some parties, but I'll tell you a funny thing. It's like I'm not among the cool guys in Stockholm anymore. I'm like most DJs know me, but I'll give you an example. We had Scruff over to play, and he tried to get me on board for the party that they were arranging, but the arrangers didn't know who I was.
Wow. And
they were like, and they were not that young. They were like maybe 25 or 30, but they're like, they knew about local talk.
Local talk.
They knew about local talk, but they didn't know who I was. So I couldn't play. So he had to play by himself.
Oh, wow. But I get the impression that wouldn't bother you one bit.
No. Like it was, we went down, we had a dance. He played a lovely set, as always. He's definitely one of my favorite DJs.
Of course.
He's such a humble man.
Yes.
And we were talking, like I used to book him in the mid-90s in Stockholm. Like most of the DJs that are playing at this festival, I used to book them to my parties in Stockholm. And except Danny Krivit for some reason.
Nice, I can say.
I missed you out.
Do you not miss running parties?
Well, we actually did my Raw Fusion. The Raw Fusion label was actually a party first that we did in the 90s, and then continued until 2010. But we sometimes do, like every year we do on this small boat, we do an intimate party for me and my friends, maybe like 100 people, and I bring my MC down, who's like a normally retired, but it's a family thing, and it's just you just play music for friends, and it's on a small boat. It's really lovely.
That's the real essence of music. Then it's not about making it something. It's not. It becomes very natural.
Yeah, we did actually. Last year we did it as a Sunday, 2 nights, a Sunday event that was really nice. We call it Raw Fusion Sunday Social. That was really nice, and we did like everything really dark, only one red light in the corner. Beautiful.
Sundays bring the real people who want to be there out.
Yeah, I mean the good thing, you can get lost. You didn't see anyone. It was like hey, you can touch someone and you didn't know it was them.
Did you used to do A&R quite a lot as well? Is that right?
I never done A&R for other labels. I only
just
done
for Raw Fusion.
Yeah, for Raw Fusion, and I had a side label called Juggling, which was the hip hop label, but no, not for any other one.
How do you feel about DJs these days? Often only play shorter sets than they used to play. As someone who likes to play such eclectic music,
honestly, I actually don't mind. It's like there are some specific DJs that I really, really rate, and even if I get like a half an hour of them, like that's enough for me. But if someone plays 3 hours really well, I don't say no.
No, of course.
But I'm not one of those that has to have like these journey sets.
No.
It's nice, but
that's probably when you're at your best.
I'm actually better when it's like normal. Like 2 hours is fine for me. I can cover all the areas. I can go from hip hop, go in a bit of jazz, some drum and bass, up to house and disco. I can do that in 2 hours. It's perfect for me.
I remember his Sunset Beat last year. Actually, you dropped the Stro Elliott Marvin's Mood after a big house track.
Oh, I can't remember.
Well, no, I'm sure you can't. Do you prefer to play festivals or club shows, or do you have no real preference?
I like festivals if the festivals are not too big, and if they're. I played this summer. It was a really nice one called Southern Soul Festival down in Montenegro.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
That was it. Actually, not so much for me personally. It was more checking out other DJs, and they had like one floor that was used for vinyl DJs, which initially I thought it was going to be too nerdy, but it wasn't. It was really beautiful. It's like it was people who couldn't mix. It was just playing their favorite tracks, and it was, and I liked that it was really mixed. It was like 50% guys, 50% girls, really mixed up, and everyone just played music they liked, and it was, it was really nice, and it was really intimate, and it was by the beach, and
yeah, the lineup looked amazing for that.
It was. I mean, the year before I went to Dimension, and it was a bit too big for me.
Yeah,
it was. It's still good, but too big.
A lot of live stuff and mixed at Dimensions, isn't there?
They had a beach stage that was really nice, but on the night it was too many people.
So we've touched on the labels that you ran, but there's not really much in terms of production from you Mats out there. Have you done much production yourself?
I haven't done much productions, but I was I started making hip hop in the late 80s, very sample based, because I was in the late 80s. I was basically digging for breaks more than anything, and so I made, and obviously very inspired by like Tribe Called Quest and Jungle Brothers, and
of course.
So it was from that route on, and then in the early 90s, we made an album with a group called Boogaloo. That was actually it wasn't released in Sweden. Only got released in Japan, and it did really well. It sold like 30 or 50,000 albums over there.
Wow!
But from that album, there was a cover of Farasonder's "You Gotta Have Freedom" that was really big in Japan. It was like a big hit among the jazz DJs over there. And we took this track and put it out as the third release on GAM, and it was also like one of the biggest releases on GAM.
So
and this was, but I only made one album.
You don't want to dip your toes in the water anymore.
I'm not that good. I'll leave it to other people that are better.
You've got plenty of those on the label.
Yeah, of course.
What's coming up with the labels at the moment?
On local talk, we have a release with Alton Miller is coming, like a deep house thing. We have a London producer, Wipe the Needle, got like a vocal track, a really nice one. We have S3A doing some
From France.
Yeah, from Max Fader. And then, like I mentioned before, we have the Ron Trent remix of
Kyoto.
Kyoto Jazz Sextet. We have an album by Out of Tones. We have a new album by Crackerset, which is basically it's basically we have this on an idea on the label that we've been doing. We basically call them reworks, when our artist reworks existing tracks from the label. But this is basically he basically made his own tracks using elements, and that's about it. I think there's a lot of other small things.
Very busy.
Yeah, try to.
The artwork side of things seems to have sort of changed with your labels over the last few years.
Well, we started working with this guy from. I had a gig a few years ago in Slovakia, and the guy that was doing the artwork for the club was really nice guy, and I really liked his artwork. So we connected. First he made some T-shirts for us, and then he slowly started working, doing some, and then now he's basically full time. So he's a really good guy, Michel Rafai.
Do you think that's why part of the label's been really successful, is because of the whole package rather than just the music? I certainly think so anyway.
Maybe.
Because it has an identity, and
I have this naive idea that when DJs go listening in record shops, I've never really seen that artwork has made us sold more, to be honest. Maybe it does.
I think it's just the whole package comes together.
I think it is for some people, because I remember I used to work in record shops a long time, and I remember like people bought tunes, like they hear something they wanted, and sometimes sadly white labels are more appealing than artwork, which is, I know my vinyl distributor gets really pissed off about.
Again, like the rotary mixer thing.
It's like but it's all of the packaging of being exclusive. You have a white label, like for example, all our releases, we sell our test pressings on Bandcamp, and they go like in a millisecond, because it makes, good or bad, it makes you feel a little bit more selected or exclusive, which is kind of silly, but it's, yeah.
Bandcamp's actually something I wanted to chat to you about, because I find that, like, for me, the best place to look for music at the moment, because it's all very interlinked. You can see other DJs' collections, what they've been buying, and as far as I'm aware, all the money goes to you guys.
No, I love Bandcamp. I think they're on purposely try to be left field. Yeah. If you go into their website, there's all, I mean, they have commercial stuff, but they don't feature it. They always feature their alternative, and it's everything from like rock music to like
the Afro reissues.
Yeah, that too. But it's but the deep jazz, and I think has a lot to do with like Andrew Jervis, who is one of the.
I don't know who he is.
He's the guy who used to run Ubiquity Records back in the day,
okay.
And he's one of the main guys. And also in the UK is a guy called Ali, who is the guy who runs First Word Records, they're like sort of key figures in the company, and they're not bad people to have for as tastemakers,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they always feature everything, and it's very simple for people to use. But is it financially more beneficial to you than, say, Beatport or Traxsource or?
Well, no, not really. It's in this digital age when something actually streaming is going up, which before it used to be like we were very dependent on vinyl sales and digital downloads. But now, like if you have something that comes across, I mean, we're not commercial, but even if we have something that goes remotely into slightly more commercial word, you see it because the digital statement doesn't come as often, but when you get them, a few years ago they used to be quite small, now they're a lot bigger.
The digital sales?
No, the digital streams.
Oh, the streams.
The downloads are kind of the same. They're not really moving because it's the same people, it's DJs
Of
who
course,
buy
yeah.
to use for DJing. It's usually, it doesn't change, but the streaming aspect has grown immensely. And it's, I mean, Spotify, I mean, what's the
Apple Music.
Yeah, it's growing.
And they're the richest men in music, the people behind these, and that's... I don't
And
know if that's-
Spotify is Swedish.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Innovators.
Yeah. And the SoundCloud as well.
SoundCloud as well.
Yeah. The guy who owns SoundCloud, he used to be a regular at my parties in
Oh,
Stockholm.
really? So it gets your mixes to the top every time?
No. he gave me like a free account. That's all he did.
So obviously we're here at the Disco Festival, Mats. Why do you think it is that disco resonates with so many people? And what is it about the music disco that really, touches people there? Well, for you, obviously you can't relate it to everybody, but it.
Well, I think that it's music that is, first of all, again, it's music. It's song, verse, it's melodic, it's chords, it's progression. And in this day and age, I think it's a healthy breeze from all the like repetitive musics that are maybe is a little bit too simple. So this is actually, it's nice to go into a
Less
club
is more.
and actually hear music that either you recognize some of it, but at least you can relate that it's songs, And it's like when you wake up tomorrow, you were like, oh, you played that song. Like when you go to Berghain or a techno club, you won't remember any tracks.
No, you won't. No.
Unless you go up maybe to a Panorama bar and you have some American DJ playing.
But then you can also, people might say that whole experience is the thing with when you don't remember the songs and it all comes together as one. But I guess that can happen with disco as well.
Well, what's that app? Shazam?
Shazam, yeah. How do you feel about Shazam?
I don't mind. Sometimes when I'm DJing, I have some guys going like, I don't mind.
No.
I see it as someone being interested in what you're playing.
Yeah.
So I don't see it as anything negative. I know that I had a discussion with Geology about this. He wasn't so happy about it.
He doesn't like it?
No.
He's more of a digger than you.
Yeah, he probably is. No, he is. He's definitely more than a digger than I am. But no, I don't see any problem with it.
I agree. On the subject of phones and technology, from when you started DJing, do you feel that that's had a negative impact on the dance floor? People using phones and technology?
I mean, I've noticed it more when I go to concerts. I don't like it when you're in a concert and you see like 1,000 phones. This I don't like.
No.
But for me, when I go to a club, I've never been the guy that goes in the front and goes and wants to capture. I always like to go in the back of the club, stand in the corner, and just feel the music, and be by myself.
Yeah.
And me personally, I don't need to capture it.
No.
That said, I've had when I filmed, but it's very rare.
Of course, because like people like, I know we keep going back to Mr. Scruff, but he has a policy of no phones on the dance floor.
I mean, if that works for him, but if someone else don't mind, that's fine for me either.
But you don't see a real change in people getting involved on the dance floor compared to how they used to before technology. And
I have a feeling it's getting better actually. I think I think people are more interested in music again. Like I think this flamboyant. I mean, you still have the flamboyant aspect of like being the superstar DJ, but it's this. This is the good thing with vinyl and road trip mixes, that it appeals to the nerdy side of people, which I think is very healthy.
It's very important
because you get more interested. So I've seen a trend in this way. As long as it doesn't get too far and you get negative on other people, that's the only time I get a little bit.
Well, I think when something goes too far, then people start to recognize that and it goes back, doesn't it? So.
But I definitely think we're moving in the right direction. I see it both in like what you can release and also when I go into club. I mean, just the fact that, I mean, a few years ago I never saw Scruff playing except for in the UK. Now he's playing everywhere. And like Dick Mantle done videos and it's Giles Peterson is bigger than ever. yeah,
exactly. Well, do you think technology has helped that then? Like
radio.
But bring not just him, but I mean bring people to the fore.
I'm not so sure it has to. Again, I'm not sure if it has to do anything with technology. I just think people got tired of hearing the same and want more variation, and they want more music. And I think Liverpool Disco Festival is a good sign of people wanting actual music, song, verse, chorus.
Exactly, yeah. Which that does resonate with people, and it has done for many years.
I mean, the UK has always been exceptional when it comes to African American inspired music. You know, in Sweden we don't have the same heritage for black music as we do over here.
No,
I mean, here you can meet people who know the history of club culture, like being seen Frankie Knuckles in Chicago or whatever. You don't really have that in Sweden, you know.
No, of course.
There's 3 guys.
You how long have you been playing in the UK for? When did you first play in the UK? When did you come out?
I remember my first gig in the UK. It was
it
was New Year's Eve 1990. It was between 93 and 94, and I was warming up for Roger Sanchez.
Oh wow!
At the Vaults in Edinburgh.
In Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Did they invite you back?
No. It was Yogi Horton.
It was who?
It's an anyone who knows Yogi Horton is an old school hardcore soulful house head.
Okay.
He's hardcore.
And how was the gig?
It was lovely.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. People looked a bit like I remember people. I'd never seen people like this. Everyone was on drugs, and they were wearing no clothes, even though maybe they should have.
Tops off. Who are you looking forward to checking out over the weekend then, Mats, when you're not playing yourself?
Oh, that's easy. I'm going to check Danny, and I'm going to check Joe.
Yeah? Anyone else we should look for?
I haven't heard Con in a long while.
Okay.
I mean, we did a few times, but I haven't seen him in a long time. Red Greg.
Of course.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Got it, yeah. And what young DJs and artists are inspiring you right now? Or people that are releasing music?
It's kind of the same. Like when I always James Brown has always been an influence to me since day one, since I was b-boying, and it's always.
But anyone right now, like current, that we should be keeping an eye out?
Well, I honestly right now I still think that the producer I always check is Louis Vega. I think he's on fire at the moment.
He is, yeah.
Because he writes really beautiful songs, and I think his productions are ace, you know. And
amazing.
Ron Trent is good too.
Yeah.
He's always spot on.
Anyone we might not know? You've probably released them on your label, haven't you? So we should check that.
Not on top of my head. Let me think about it.
I sent you the questions.
Yeah, you did. But we said we were going to go freestyle.
Yeah. B-boy style. Well, I guess it would just be people that you're releasing on your label, really, wouldn't it? But
no, I mean there are plenty of. I mean, I listen like at home. I listen to a lot of beats, like hip hop, instrumental hip hop beats, and like there are a lot of beats producers that I like, but lately I've been listening to a lot of like gospel R&B.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been digging and trying to find, you know, like all these various groups, you know, like R&B groups that are like ranging from the 90s up till now. And there's a lot of good stuff that you can play. I did actually a session. In Stockholm, there's a guy that used to go to my parties, who is like he's like a hardcore gospel collector, and he travels all around the States. He buys mainly vinyl, like disco and rare groove inspired gospel music, and I'm more on the R&B side.
Okay.
But we do exchanges. So
right. Who's that? Sorry.
His name is Tom Peele. You never heard of him?
No.
And he DJs at football arenas.
Really?
Yeah. He DJs for AIK, which is the biggest football team in Sweden.
Half time. Oh, in Sweden.
Yeah.
You just told me about that before, actually.
Yeah.
They have DJs at half time.
Yeah, and he plays gospel music for like football nutters.
I can't see that taking on in the UK.
I don't think anyone cares, and he doesn't care. He just plays it for like 50,000 people.
I
and
bet he gets paid okay as well.
I have no clue. But he knows his stuff, you know, like he's serious with his gospel stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird cultural thing, because you would never see that in the UK, would you?
But we did actually, me and him did a gig a few weeks ago, which is, if you look through my on my Facebook, you can probably find it. It's like it's a mixed cloud, and we just playing gospel, R&B, disco, soul, like 2 or 3 hours.
I see. You like to release quite a lot of mixes, don't you, Mats?
Sorry?
You like to release quite a lot of mixes online?
I did more before, but
Yeah.
football has been taking over lately. So
Really?
yeah.
So that's more not more your passion, but that's what you're going for at the moment. Dedicating time to.
No, music is always there, and it's
Yeah.
like it's
You
just
think it
not
will
as
always be there.
it's just not as often as it used to be, because I'm like we mentioned before, I'm not so.
You let
I
things
like
flow naturally, and
No, I just want to pick the gigs that I like. I had a really good one last week in Brussels, but I knew it was going to be good because I know the party, I know the people around it,
yeah,
and like the festivals I did this summer was really good. I knew they were going to be good, but then I don't mind waiting 2 months and not having a gig. It doesn't bother me anymore.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
a few years ago, I would be like, my fingers would be itching.
Yeah.
Now my fingers are itching going to the next football session.
So you go for quality over quantity in terms
Oh,
of
definitely,
gigs.
definitely.
Because I guess it could burn you out if you're playing too many shows.
Well, I was in the car with Danny. He was saying he was playing 7 nights a week before. I was like, I can't do that. Yeah, but how many nights do you do now? I do like 2 or 3 a month, max. And I'm younger than you.
Mats, I'd like to invite any questions from the audience that anyone might have, if that's okay.
Oh, we covered
with you.
everything, but okay.
Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask Mats? Yeah.
There was 2 things. One was kind of tacky, which was like I can't remember the name of them, but they had a track called Breakdance. Breakdance was a yeah, and it was really horrible. But then it was like a Sugar Hill Gang, you know. That was probably the big one, you know. Yeah. No. It was actually, I can't really remember where I first heard it, but I remember everyone bought it, and then we you know, it's one of those, like, we don't have that many records. You play them over and over and over, and we were breakdancing at the same time. So it's like we were b-boying to them, and we didn't have that many records. And like I said, it went really fast. Like from 2 weeks earlier, music wasn't even in my sphere. It wasn't like, it just was noise. Very much so, yeah. And the whole thing, it's something coming from New York, which is like from someone in Sweden, it's a huge impact, you know. Like, it's different when you probably lived it, you know. But for me, it was. No, we had import shops. Like, I mean, Sweden is actually, you probably don't know this, but in Sweden, do you know what a cutout record is? Yeah. You know, when they cut the corners, they dumped shitloads of cutout records in Sweden over the 80s and in the late 70s and in all through the 80s. For some reason, they dumped so much records in Sweden, and a lot of black music, and we had a very healthy jazz scene in Sweden. So black music wasn't really something uncommon, like which it was, for example, in Finland or in other Scandinavian countries. So we had quite a healthy black music scene. So when the hip hop wasn't something weird when it came, it just came really full force. Yeah, but we used to book them in Stockholm, like the whole crew. We brought with Scruff. We brought them over, and then I played for them as well in Manchester when they had this. I can't can't remember what it was. A friendly, no, family, friends and family. Yeah, that was a lovely party, and good people too. And that record shop was. Ace. Yeah.
Anybody else?
In London, yeah.
In terms of disco, though, there's not. Yeah. No, 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 no. There is, yeah. Yeah, it's great.
But it's this famous thing of connecting the dots. It's like the famous jazz word, like. And I think this is what I talked about before. Like when we came from hip hop, we were connecting the jazz dots with the disco. And maybe if you're coming from techno, I think it's a little bit harder. Yeah, because you're a bit more limit. I'm not saying it's not possible. It's just harder.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but he's insane, like when he's probably the one that's probably closest to the way I play when I play at my parties. I get, because of GAM and local talk, I get booked for a lot of house and disco parties. But what I really want to play is the No Limit, That's when I'm probably good, or better, sorry.
Anybody else? Mike?
Yeah, actually I do. We have a release by this guy called Willie Graff, which is normally not my type of music, but he did a track called Sunday Morning, which is a very, very, very late hours New York house track. Very beautiful, very melodic, and I play it like all the time still. It's a beautiful track. So if you don't know it, check it out. Or if anyone wants it, you can just contact me. I'll send it to you for free. And it's a beautiful track.
Anybody else before we wrap up with Mats? One more, there we go.
It's definitely getting better, but I think it's quite trendy, which is a little bit what I touched on before. It's not necessarily bad because it gets people into music that is more musical, but sometimes I question if they're really in it for the music or if they're in it because it's makes them feel and look more credible. Stockholm is a very trendy city, shitloads of hipsters, and but I'd rather have it than not having it. So, and the club scene is definitely. A few years ago, we used techno everywhere. Everyone went outside in the woods and raved. Now there are finally some clubs that are not in the city, but are in the outskirts, and they're booking good stuff. So I can't really complain. No, and it's more young people coming into it as well, and there are record shops opening, which is nice. So it's getting better.
Okay. If no one has any more questions, I think we'll wrap up there with Mats. Thank you for talking to everybody, Mats.
Thank you.
And what time are you playing tomorrow, man?
Sorry, I think it's like 3:30.
On the June stage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the 15 years of June.
Correct. Okay. Well, go check out Mats tomorrow if you're at the festival. Thank you.